Hey guys, Arden Ballad here with Crash Cart with Risky Throttle Media. I'm a physician assistant, athletic trainer, and a resident health guru here with Risky Throttle. Doping. What is doping? I'm going to read you the definition straight from the United States Anti-Doping Agency. Okay, doping refers to the use of banned substances in competitive sports. Performance-enhancing drugs, or PEDs, is another term used for drugs used by athletes to improve their athletic performance. So when we think of athletic performance, I'm sure a lot of people think of testosterone and people getting jacked and roided up. But I'll tell you, the big secret to a lot of performance enhancing drugs is the ability to recover and maintain your performance over a long period of time. And if anybody hasn't noticed, supercross and motocross seasons are incredibly long. If you look at other professional sports in the arenas, your footballs and your basketballs, your hockeys and all the ball and stick sports, they have seasons. They have what's called periodization, right? They have a preseason, an in-season, then they have a postseason, and then an off-season, right? And so those four categories people are able to create a workout program that's suitable for all four stages, including the most important one, which is the off-season, where you rest and rebuild. We don't have that luxury in the Super Motocross series. I think the current series is 31 weeks long, and it's not patty cake. This is some intense stuff. So what is the doping policy for AMA Pro Racing? Okay, so recently, back in 2019, the AMA took the drug testing policy away from the WADA group, the World Anti-Doping Agency, and created a deal with USADA, which is the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency. This program is run by a program director by the name of Mindy Shelby. She's a PhD at Aegis Science Corporation in Nashville. This is important. So the medical review officer, she's not a doctor. The medical review officer, his name is Douglas Ackerman. He's an MD. He's a sports medicine physician. I think he trained at Penn State. And anyway, this is how this works, okay? So they have a drug testing policy. They'll test by urine or blood or hair or whatever. And if there's all the negatives are going to be handled by Aegis, right? And by the Mindy Shelby as the program director. If there's any type of non-negative situation, that's when the medical review officer gets on board. Okay. And he'll review everything and make the determination as to what's going on with this particular drug sample. The AMA has published a document. I think it's 17 pages long. I'll link it in the description for you guys. So how do I know all these athletes are doping? I'll tell you what, and this is my suspicion. Okay. Number one, the season is far too taxing on the body to avoid it. These guys are going 10 months out of the year, and that's just for super motocross. And then you have all these off-season races and sponsor obligations, all this stuff. They're constantly on, and they're at such a high level that their body's just torn down. I mean, this is why we saw Ryan Dungey and Ricky Carmichael and all these guys, Ryan Villapoto, retire so early. Frankly, they're just burnt out. Number two, the risk of injury is far too great if these guys aren't at their 100% level. They're at their peak performance level. Imagine if you were to show up to your job and you sprained your ankle the night before and you're hurting a little bit. Well, you could still probably do your job, especially if you're sitting at a desk working at a computer. You don't have to be at 100%. But these guys, they have to be at the top of their game mentally and physically in order to avoid some sort of catastrophic injury. It's bad enough that you sprain an ankle or something, but if you break a long bone or God forbid something worse, then that's a serious issue, and these guys can't make money at that point. My third one, and this is the big secret that I was telling you about, it's too easy and too affordable to get the stuff under the radar that you would need to be optimized and still pass a drug test. Using some quick science and a little bit of math, you can easily monitor yourself to avoid any type of punishment or probation or suspension from a positive drug test. Lance Armstrong did this for years, and it was only until he got tired of answering the question that he came out and admitted it, that he doped all these years. Everybody knew it, but everybody else was too. And that brings me to why I'm okay with it. Number one, it's affordable. This is not a cost prohibitive thing for most of the racers that are on the main event lines. Okay, so we're not talking about something where there's a differentiation between what one can afford and who's willing to spend and who's good. Okay. So even your privateers and your 3-digit guys can afford some of this stuff, and everybody's on the same playing field. Okay. And that's ultimately why we drug test these people. It's to keep people from getting an unfair advantage. Number two, it's safe when it's done correctly. Back in the 80s and 90s, when all this stuff was really hot and coming out, people didn't know what they were doing. And people were getting really hurt and killed, dying from using anabolic steroids and illegal substances to gain a competitive edge. It was really expensive, and people just kind of guessed and used bro science to figure out what they were doing. It's not safe. I don't recommend that. Even for us non-professional guys, if you're using this stuff that I'm about to talk about, use it under the eye of a trained professional. And number three, like I mentioned, it's safer than the alternative. I would much rather be on a performance-enhancing drug and be safe and not break my leg because I'm overusing it, or God forbid I get a season-ending injury and can't make any money. So for me, when I'm weighing those risks and benefits, it's something to consider. Now, this is what these guys are using, okay? If you haven't heard of it yet, there's a drug class called peptides. Peptides are very common in the news now. You're hearing about the weight loss drug, Ozempic and Wegovy. Those are all peptides. Peptides are single chains of amino acids that tell the body specifically something to do. It's like a little cellular signal, right? So in the event of the GLP-1s, the Ozempics and Wegovys of the world, it's working on the gut and the liver and the pancreas to basically control your blood sugar and all this stuff. Well, those aren't the only peptides around. In fact, peptides are nothing new. They've been around since the 60s. And a lot of them can help secrete your own body's natural hormone production, namely growth hormone, human growth hormone. Now, human growth hormone I can talk for hours about because it was very unsafe back in the day. I mean, shoot, there's reports of people's eye color changing and all sorts of crazy stuff happening. But nowadays, if you use peptides to make your body pump out more of your own growth hormone, number one, it's much safer, especially, like I said, done correctly. But number two, it doesn't produce this crazy amount of human growth hormone, so it's hard to detect. On top of that, the lab test for human growth hormone and another growth factor called IGF-1 or insulin growth factor type 1, it's darn near impossible to get an accurate measurement within the bloodstream. You see, these two hormones, they kind of go up and down throughout the day. It's secreted during deep sleep at night, kind of pulsates out, and then it kind of does this throughout the day. So it's really hard, if not impossible, to get an accurate reading. So you can't test what is high or excessive in somebody. There are other peptides too that there are no testing in the database to even perform to measure if somebody's using. Peptides like BPC-157 or TB500, which help with healing and recovery time after injury. In my clinic, I swear by this stuff. I think this stuff is amazing. I've used it personally. Now, I'm not a professional athlete, and don't get me wrong, I don't condone these guys to do this stuff, to work illegally, but here's why I don't think it should be illegal. The UFC has recently removed a lot of their doping policies for specifically this reason, because the demand on the athlete now, the entertainer, is far too great. And the UFC ends up losing money if these guys get hurt, right? And so the AMA is the same way. If 10 of the top 15 guys are out from injury, or they just can't keep up with the demand, well, no one's going to show up to the race. So if done appropriately, let them do it. Let them get under a protocol that is appropriate and safe and monitored. That also keeps them from going on the black market and getting stuff from some foreign country with no regulations whatsoever. If they get it from a reputable pharmacy and they are followed by a reputable provider, then I don't see anything wrong with it. I want you to tell me your thoughts in your comments down below. If you're mad at me, if you say, Arden, you're stupid, fine, I can handle it. Give me a shout and let me know what you think. Until next time, this is Arden from Whiskey Throttle Media, Crash Cart, signing off. See ya.
If you like this video, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos, comment what you thought, and share it with your friends.